I think it's a big game changer, honestly, the fact that they know each other so well. They're not afraid to challenge each other. Avery loves the fact Matt's really hard on him. I mean, nobody's harder on Avery than Avery, but Matt's really hard on him, but still loves him and takes care of him. But he challenges him, and gets on his butt when he makes mistakes and stuff. But now that when you're talking in a QB room and okay, it's going to get called because we've been working on it, or I've told my position coach, who's also the coordinator, that it's going to get called. Well, I think that's going to help as well.
All right, we're back live on Radio Row from Big 12 Media Days. John Kurtz, Derek Young, joined by the head coach of the Cats, Chris Klieman. Coach, appreciate you taking some time here.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, how much different does this offseason feel with this week 0 Ireland trip coming up? Has it been a little bit different?
It's way different. I mean, everything's different. And we knew it was going to be different when we signed up for it 18 months ago. Then it got even more difficult with the house settlement and reduced roster. And the travel and stuff, it's a lot different, but we've got to navigate it as best we can. And we've talked to so many different people that have been there, whether it's through a college or through an NFL, and how they've navigated not only going, but more importantly, probably coming back, that we've learned about. But it's going to be a challenge for sure.
The fact that it is a conference game, is there a part of you as like a coach that kind of hates having to have a conference game that early?
You got to play them all anyway. And so, no, I think it's going to increase the urgency of fall camp. And not only that, but fall camp was never an issue. And then you had that week where you didn't have, where you had school and there was a lull and you're like, boy, that guy's don't have any life. Now it's just, you're rolling right from fall camp to a game. And so, which is, uncharted territories for us. But I know that, I think it's going to increase the urgency, and it will change our schedule as coaches. Usually you go through the entire fall camp before you start really game planning because you have a week of school and stuff. Now, we're rolling in the middle of fall camp. We're gonna have to cut that time down and say, okay, now we got to focus on Iowa State. We got to give more than a week for that.
Yeah, you'll get fired up just a couple of weeks from today. Really, is there a position group where you feel like we really got to attack and shore up in this amount of time that's left before the season?
Yeah, I'd say once we get to camp starting, the offensive line and the secondary, which I'm excited about with the potential of guys we have and the different prospects, young kids, transfers, so on and so forth. But some of the O-line transfers just didn't come till June. Many of our secondary kids were hurt during spring. So I think those are the two areas that I'm most intrigued about learning about, creating that chemistry in the O-line and to find out, who are those 7 or 8 guys in the secondary, not who the 4 are.
Yeah. And the guy you kind of raved about up at the podium was George Fitzpatrick, who came in the spring. It sounds like he's really just taking the ball and running with it.
He's might have been our best offensive lineman this spring. And he's just really talented, and he's hungry. He's played at a good place, but hasn't played a lot. And you can tell why they recruit nothing but 5-stars typically. And this kid's really competitive guy, and he's got some meanness, toughness to him, and he's fit in. He'd be the one guy that through when we first started, by the first practice, you'd never know that he was even a transfer. You thought he'd been here the whole time.
How much did Will Howard help you with that one?
Big time.
Yeah.
He helps with him and Gabe Powers.
Yeah.
Both. He and his folks. His folks helped too, which, just kind of goes to show you the relationship we had. And excited for Will, but excited that Will was able to help us.
Yeah. Another guy we've heard a lot about is Jerron Tibbs and what he's doing in the receiver core. But between him and J.B. Bradley that you have there too, like how much better do you feel about what you have this year at receiver?
Yeah, we have more people, more guys that can't focus in on one guy. We've had really good players in Malik and Phil and Cade. All those guys were good players. But to have a group together, we had those 3 together and we ended up playing in Arlington.
Yeah.
And so having, 3 bona fide, maybe even 4 or 5 bona fide guys that you can't just say we're going to double some guy the whole time. And, having a kid like JB Bradley that's 6'5", maybe 6'6" as an X receiver, that's something we haven't had before, where you hope, okay, you're going to rotate coverage. It's going to open up a lot of things. If you don't rotate coverage, now we've got a potential mismatch. So we're going to utilize all of them, and I think Matt's excited about the different pieces we have.
Yeah, well, he's obviously got familiarity there with JB, obviously from his time back at Texas Tech. What year two of him working with Avery quite a bit now as the offensive coordinator? What has that been like?
Yeah, I think it's a big game changer, honestly. The fact that they know each other so well, they're not afraid to challenge each other. Avery loves the fact Matt's really hard on him. I mean, nobody's harder on Avery than Avery, but Matt's really hard on him, but still loves him and takes care of him. But he challenges him, and gets on his butt when he makes mistakes and stuff. But now that when you're talking in a QB room and okay, it's going to get called because we've been working on it, or I've told my position coach, who's also the coordinator, that it's going to get called. Well, I think that's going to help as well. And, Matt's been, he's one of the brightest offensive minds in college football. Whether we have to play 2 running backs, whether we have to play 3 or 4 wides, or whether we have to play 3 tight ends, Matt's had that, that experience of doing them all.
One of the funnest stories possibly is if Asa can have a terrific season. Do you feel like he's on the verge of that at all?
Yeah. We've got to temper the early season expectations of guys like Asa and Colby McAllister, Bo Palmer. Those are really good players that were taken away from us last year, that are all at different stages coming back from their injury. But, where we've been decimated, it seems like the last 2 years is always linebacker.
Yeah.
And if we can get a healthy Asa, even if it's, starting in September or something, and a healthy Bo, and then Rex Van Wy coming back, I mean, that's going to help us. And then Colby McAllister's probably on that right around August 1st metrics too. Gunnar Maldonado is probably the same way. He might be a little bit sooner. Gunnar Maldonado and Bo Palmer are probably cleared a little quicker than those other two.
The kicking game, are you satisfied where you're at yet?
No, you never are, though. Simon McLennan's a terrific punter. We're going to have a kicking battle, really. We're going to have a battle. I like what Leighton Simmering did in the spring. It's just his durability, because he's not a big body. He's had some leg things, so we got to be smart with him. Cub Patton's got a terrific leg, but missed a lot of the spring. So it's going to be an ongoing battle probably throughout fall camp.
Okay. Speaking of battles, what's the battle looking like right now at corner, where you're going to be breaking in, obviously, some new faces there?
Yeah, I like the kids that we brought in at semester, and Jaden Rowe. He's a really good player, and he's a big body. He would remind you when you come out of Julius Brents. I mean, he's 230 pounds playing corner, but he can run a 10-500 meter. So he's gonna help us for sure. Then you still have Justice James back, and Justice has been on our program now 4 years. Then you throw the 2 young kids in with Zayshawn and McIntosh. You've got really good competition and good depth there. And then Amarian Fortenberry is a guy that came in that never redshirted, so he's kind of building his body back up, but I like him as a player. So we have depth there, but I couldn't tell you who the starters are going to be right now. It's going to be a good battle. But I like that. We have great competition.
Backup quarterback. Obviously, you're going to need someone probably at some point during the season. You did for a little bit at Colorado last year with Devon Roberson.
Yeah.
What did you see from those guys in the spring?
Yeah, and you guys know we were so limited this spring. We only practiced 8 times. Didn't have a full complement of a lot of different positions. So it was going to stay ongoing throughout. Blake is a young player that is kind of a rising star that has all the tools. If he can eliminate mistakes, he can be a really good player, because he's got a cannon for an arm, really good athlete, really good leader. Jacob Knuth, Jacob Knuth probably is going to make fewer mistakes right now. He's been in the program a little bit longer. Maybe may not make the splash play as Blake right now, but both those 2 guys are really battling out for that number 2 spot. And then you throw Dylan Duff in, and Dylan's going to be a really good player. I don't know if he can overtake those guys in a fall camp. Maybe he can. He only had 8 practices, and we weren't double rep, as you guys know us as double rep. We'll go back to that this fall. So now you got those 4 kids taking a lot more reps. I think the cream will rise. And when you only go single rep and you're trying to get 4 guys reps, and the main guy being Avery, because you want him with Tibbs, you want him with Bradley, just it takes away from other guys' reps. And so we'll get back to double rep this fall camp.
We asked a few of your players this already. Was there someone that comes to mind when we asked about an underappreciated player that'll probably become a household name?
I think Ryan Davis is
That's what they said.
Did they?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. I think Ryan Davis is very underappreciated. I think Joe Jackson is underappreciated as another guy. And I think Will Encio is another one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think that kid is just starting to grow into his body. He had a really good year last year, has a lot more confidence. So those type of guys, I would say.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, there's nothing that beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And there's no simpler way to get in on the action than by downloading the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
They'd get on me if I didn't ask this. Do you anticipate playing Lincoln Cure right away?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how much we weren't with him in the spring.
Right.
So how much he can handle from the mental side of it, we just don't know yet. We got to get around him. I know that Luke Wells has really enjoyed the conversations throughout the summer of just teaching him the formations and stuff and the plays, but you can't go out there with him, at least not legally, and we don't do it. So, if, we'll find out more about him, what he can handle the month of July and August. But he may be a kid that you may not see early. You may, but you're going to see sometime because he's 230 pounds. He runs like a wide receiver. He's jumps out of a gym, so he's athletic. You got to find a way to get the kid on the field. We just got to see where we can put him in some situations.
We've been hearing that Avery is faster this year. Is that
Yeah,
confirmed?
absolutely. It's confirmed. We had Avery, VJ Payne, Dylan Edwards, and Donovan McIntosh, and I might be missing one. Those 4 for sure. I remember seeing in a picture that ran over 23 miles an hour. And all 4 of those kids put on really good muscle mass and weight.
It seemed like Dylan Edwards is a guy that's bulked up quite a bit too, right?
I don't tell you, pound for pound in the weight room, our strength guys would say he might be the strongest kid on the team. When you talk about what your weight is at 175 pounds, with how much he benches, squats, cleans, all that stuff, pound for pound. And that's the thing is, and people saw glimpses of it. He can rip through arm tackles, and he did that in the Rate Bowl. He can run away from everybody, but, he's not just a a perimeter runner. He had a couple in the Rate Bowl inside on some power and some trap plays where he just busted through and broke through an arm tackle and went.
Going from Coach True to Coach Ray Thomas, didn't miss a beat?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, you love True. You wish him well. Did a great job for us. But as you guys have followed me for 7 years here, if there's somebody that's good enough to ascend to that next role, I'm going to hire that person. What does it say if I brought somebody in from the outside of what I really thought of that system?
Yep.
I knew the system was good, and I've watched Ray grow in this thing for 4 years with us here, and I knew he was ready. And then keeping Elijah Blackman and keeping Seth Porter were huge keeps for us. Seth's a icon at K-State in my mind, and now he's a full-time strength coach. Elijah Blackman's phenomenal coach. And then, we do things with Lance Yancey in sports science, I think, and Scott Troush in nutrition as good as anybody in the country.
Probably the last one for me, kind of going away from the on-field product. The House settlement just got approved. Is there something that you like about where we are headed, or something you still think needs change?
This is going to be a full year for us to figure this stuff out, because I don't like the roster going down to 105. I think everybody knows that. I do like the fact that there's a potential cap that would maybe make it a little bit more equitable across the board. But if I told you that School X is playing on $50 million this year and next year's going to play on 15, you think that's going to happen? There ain't any way. Everybody tells me it's going to happen. It isn't going to happen. Somehow they're going to be able to get that money to those players. That's where I have real reservations with it. I hope and that we can get it more equitable, but I need to see it.
Yeah, with that, how do you manage like high school recruiting right now and knowing what you can budget when you're not totally sure how all that goes? Like, it just seems like it's got to be crazy as a coach to
You got to keep up.
Yeah, we do. And that's where Clint Brown, guys, is so good. Clint is phenomenal at what he does. And we keep the assistants and the coordinators out of anything. They wouldn't be able to tell you what any kid makes at all. Clint knows it all. Clint does all the negotiation. Clint does the spreadsheet. He'll, consult me about some guys, but I couldn't tell you. He knows it like a T, but that's what he's hired to do. And so, but it's going to be interesting because you're budgeting those kids that are coming in June for next season,
right.
or are you not? Well, if a kid's a mid-year, you're budgeting for 6 months. If he's not a mid-year, then you're not putting him in that budget. You're pushing him to the next cap. Those are things that I never thought we would be doing in college football, but we are doing them. And let's hope everybody has some guardrails and understands how to do it.
Do you hear from like your friends in the coaching community, them contemplating whether or not they still want to do this because of all that?
I've lost a couple of good friends to the NFL, and Connor Riley, everybody knows, and then Tyler Roll, who's one of Matt Campbell's best assistants. He went to the Detroit Lions. Tyler was with me at NDSU. I talked to those guys, and it's football only. And Rouse is like, I haven't made a recruiting call since I left. Well, no kidding. That's the difference. I think my fear is we're going to lose the 35 to about 48-year-old guys that are going to probably bypass all this stuff and go right to the NFL. You get guys like myself and Wells and Tui and Van and Buddy. I don't know if we can do that. We're at that stage that, maybe that's probably past us a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't. But the younger coaches, I would tell them to go to the NFL until we get this thing under control.
Yeah. One thing real quick on Matt Wells, actually, I heard you say this, I think, in another interview. Did he have a chance to take some other jobs this offseason before he stepped with you guys?
He had some group of 5 head jobs. I don't want to say which ones, but he had some group of 5 head jobs. But, he and I talked at length every time an opening comes up because he's very candid with me and I'm really good friends with him. And he, bottom line, just said his time wasn't done here. And his time with Avery is so important. He wants to continue to build and grow him. And his son Wyatt, I think, just finished his freshman year, had a phenomenal baseball season. It's easy to say you're leaving. It's hard when you got kids involved. It really is, especially once they get to high school.
It's a good thing a lot of your coaches have kids then, huh? So you don't have to work.
Well, and now they're getting older. I mean, like Van's kids are old because Van's really, really old. Buddy's getting up there. He's not as old as Van, but he's getting up there. Tui's got one, I think, finishing up high school. Middleton's got some that are coming through high school. Klieman's got some that are just coming through high school. Those are hard decisions, and I think that's the thing that I've been happy with. We've lost Colin, we've lost Connor, we've lost Mess and so forth, but we've been able to keep the majority of our staff because they enjoy Manhattan, they enjoy raising their families there, and we really get along well. I think you guys can see that we're pretty genuine as a staff. I think our guys get along really well.
One thing I try to beat the drum on a lot, you're talking about Avery, a quarterback, working with Matt Wells. Maybe he'll be in the NFL at some point, but Skylar Thompson, Will Howard, Easton Stick, Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, like all these quarterbacks you've been involved with, it seems like basically everyone for the last decade
I know it.
playing in the NFL.
Cool.
Like, do you take a step back and think about
how
awesome that is?
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh Steelers fan now.
I know it. And one of those two, I don't know what's going to happen, but no, it's something I'm really proud of. And they're all have different paths there, but I think my impact on them all was very similar as far as recruiting them, and then as well as spending as much time with them from a defensive perspective, which I think has helped all those guys to be able to flip the board, so to speak, and talk defensive football. When you're with a head coach or a GM or assistants and you can talk the defensive language, it gives them a leg up.
So then I kind of message I try to send is when you don't get some of the kids you want in recruiting, I was like, well, they just spent a lot of money probably trying to keep their own players too.
Yeah, and we're going to do that. And that's the interesting thing with this revenue share. If a freshman comes in and wants X amount of dollars, Clint Brown does a great job saying, how can I give you that when the starter's making this?
Yeah.
How am I going to explain that to the starter? And don't tell me, well, you're never going to find out. We all know people are going to find out. So we're going to take care of our best players. We're going to take care of our guys, and we treat it more like a rookie contract.
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy the things you got to deal with.
I know it.
We appreciate it, Coach.
So, well, no, I'm excited for July 23rd, and I can go maybe 75% football and not 10% football like I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Hey, no more house settlement questions from us. We'll let you go. Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.